Your Mars is not created equal. We're going to talk about how to win with your Mars in this video, but I want you to understand that your Mars isn't created equal. Mars in your chart is a negative energy. It shows us where our differences are. And according to classic astrology, Mars in certain places shows more of the competence to win. But I want to introduce you to my technique of astrology and manifestation, where you're no longer putting onto your Mars whether it has strength or whether it's debilitated, but understanding Mars just as competence. Understanding your competence, where Mars is in your chart, is going to show you how you can win no matter the aspect, no matter what elemental zodiac sign it is in or house placement. Yes, there are certain Mars placements that are just naturally inclined to Mars energy, but that doesn't mean that you can't win. So in this video, I'm going to show you how every Mars placement has its own winning formula according to my astrology and manifestation techniques. Let's get into it. When we understand Mars, so Mars energy versus Venus energy, or Aries versus Libra in your chart, right? We can understand that Mars helps us have direction, which basically is making a decision. And being able to make a decision with your Mars is all about making decisions towards the things that you want. So, why work with Mars? Why work on your masculine energy versus your feminine energy? Well, you may find that you need to balance. And in working with Mars, you are going to find that this has more to do with when you need to make a decision, when you need to be straightforward, when you need to be direct. Signs that your Mars energy is needing attention is that you may have unrealized goals and dreams. You may find that you're always waiting around for someone to tell you what to do. And you may be hiding behind not wanting to be competitive. You may be hiding behind the idea of being competitive for fear of the true confidence of being competent. So, in understanding that your Mars is going to be healthy, you can not compete but know that you could win. For Mars in your chart is how you win. The biggest sign for me with my Mars is recognizing that I was competitive, but not in the areas that my Mars is the most competent. So another sign that your Mars needs attention is that you are competitive. You are out there in the field, but you're just not feeling like you're winning. Mars is how you feel like you're winning. And understanding your Mars needs and your Mars competence, where it sits in your chart, is going to change everything. Work with me as I experiment with this, but we are going to go into all of the placements so that you can experiment too. That's right. Where Mars is in your chart, the zodiac sign and the house that it lays in has elemental principles that are a formula for how you win. You have your own specific formula due to your Mars placement. Along with this video lecture, we also have accompanying worksheets that go even deeper into the different Mars formulas depending on your zodiac or house placement. So let's dive into Mars in your chart, which also incorporates worksheets that you can download. You can purchase and download down below, which accompany this entire talk on Mars. You can find everything timestamped below. Let's begin. Mars in the first house, or Mars in Aries. This is a very vital space for Mars and usually produces someone who is naturally ambitious. However, there can be times where you feel like your Mars is not winning. And some of those signs will be that you want something, but you're not really able to lead with it. People keep diminishing you, bringing you down to either a wannabe or a follower, which is a real debilitating space for a Mars in Aries because it really wants to be the leader. And in understanding that part of this competence, you can see that that is what you are here to do. So if you're trying to compete in other areas, first take a step back and ask yourself, how am I leading, and secure that for you. You can also use winning mentalities about being a naturally great leader, that you don't even have to think about it, that you have demonstrated how much you're a leader. And when you respond to things, you're able to respond to it from a space of leadership and a being of leadership, which will bring your Mars into its winning state. Mars in the first house really wants to be the best at first impressions. It wants to be the best leader. It wants to beat out other competitive leaders. Inside of the worksheets, you can, in the worksheet downloads, you can get a dress like your Mars. And Mars in Aries or Mars in the first house really works a lot with how their appearance looks, because appearances is the main factor of Mars in the first house, and that's your placement. So working with clothes that are more red, like red hues, autumn-like hues, black, white, these are going to be elements of colors that you may want to include in how you dress like your Mars, especially if you have a Mars in Aries. But in the first house, you can also add these elements to uplift and enhance the Mars energy as you're working with Mars. So remember that you may feel defeated with your Mars and certain signs and triggers. Just to throw the truth out there and move beyond it, is that somebody is looking better than you, or people may be talking about your appearance of some sort of nature, as Mars in the first house is boom, like it's how I first see you. So it's almost like you can't avoid it, how your first impressions are. And Mars really wants to win at first impressions. So this is really about catering your time, attention, and energy, not to please others, but to really just define your presentation of self. And that is really going to enhance your win. It's where you're the most competent in winning. Getting to the top with Mars to be is the 1% of physical fitness. So with it being in its home energy of Aries or the first house, working on your strength and physical fitness is a number one priority. So working with your Mars is going to bring out the winner in you. With this placement, you already probably are very used to winning, but when you have those flubs of moments, failures, mistakes, these are all things that are opportunities to sharpen ourselves. These are your elements of Mars that can help you, okay? And if you'd like to see more, check the worksheets down below. Okay, if you have a Mars in Taurus or Mars in the second house, then your Mars competitive nature is not going to be like what is cliche. You're not as combative or confrontational. And that is actually your winning formula, is to understand that you're more of that Venus peaceful energy. And while you don't have to enforce peace, even if you are more rebellious, it will still emanate off of you that you're not really here to cause any conflict or static. So this energy is softer, and one of the dress and be sexy that you want to include in your energy work with Mars is working with elements of your second house or Taurus nature. So like working with colors that are like emerald green, browns, and very warm. Now, I know that this might not feel very hot at first, because it actually feels kind of even boring to some, but being as naturally brownish and earthy as you can is actually your winning formula. And that energy will really help you to see how anytime you were over exaggerating, over pushing, overdoing it, that it's just that overworked bull. It's never going to win. It's always the slave to other people's burdens. So a lot of people who have a competitive nature here, you know, your competence isn't like everyone else's. It's not always as physical, even though you do have a physical fitness formula. But it's not as physical as it is sensual, right? And so you're more in the productive state. You're more in the place where you're making things beautiful, and that is how you win. Ooh, that gives me chills. That is how you win. You make things beautiful, and it's very different. So like I'm thinking of an imagery of like a runner on a track field. You know what I'm saying? You might be the one that like make sure the design of your clothes is, cute for you. Or you might, wear something that hints to something that is beautiful, like a beautiful hairstyle, even if you have to wear sporty clothes. So working with that actually enhances you, and it's less about whatever people think. It's actually just reminding you of what you are, what you come from. That brings you that winning element, that beautiful element that you bring to the table. And there needs to be more Mars and Taurus, Mars and second house winners, because these are the people who remind us that beauty is, one of the solutions to our conflict. So if you don't win like everybody else, be okay with that. Like, you will at least be one of the most good-looking people in the room, the most pleasant people, the most attractive people in the room. And I'm not just saying on a superficial level, but that's the one that has more sustenance, more purpose, something that is going to last longer than just the superficial win of the trophy. So this is actually a message for all of the earth ones elements, because they don't always win right away, but that sustenance is one of the elements of your winning formula. So you may sometimes feel like, okay, like you can't get what you can't you can't have it. That would be the formula for Taurus or second house, right? That you can't have it, that you're not able to get it. This can sometimes show up as financial issues. To win is to feel like you have it. So tell yourself, I feel like I have it. You can work with that. Other things that are really important is your fitness formula, because Mars is about our fitness. And so even though in certain places Mars is naturally going to be fit, your placement needs to see the essentials to why being fit is important. Okay, so it is related to health. But for you, it has a lot to do with the elements of the thyroid, right? And so this is more about de-stress fitness. This is about like yin yoga or yoga in general, as long as it's not too strenuous. It's about like in playful dancing, like especially like rooted, grounded dancing, earthing, walking, hikes. These are the best fitness elements for this placement, so that you can merge, that, because quite often this placement may not like to be too strenuous with fitness, can often deal with, sugar issues and overeating. So you have to be really kind to yourself and your habits, and it will start to be better. So it's not an element that's great at like where people are like pushing you. While you may more than other elements be able to take a hard strenuous push at first, after a while it will overwork you and you will be resentful to it. You'll have an emotional or stagnant response to it, because this is a very fixed part for Mars to be. So your relationship with your fitness needs to be one that is inviting, it's sensual, it has elements of colors, play, femininity, that will bring you more towards it, and really working with femininity. So any elements of fitness that are more, connected to femininity from your aspect of what you need, could be really, really transformational and life changing on your relationship to it, because Mars is learning how to be kind in its winning here, and it's not a natural nature to Mars. So it actually releases a lot of frustration and inner turmoil when you're able to work with your Mars with this placement. So if you'd like to go deeper, you can check the worksheets down below. I also do have phone sessions that you can email, and you'll see that below as well. And I'll see you guys. We're looking at Mars in the third house, or Mars in Gemini. This placement is the best commercial act They have the capacity and the competence to create clarity, and they have a very biting style because Mars is the activity, the warrior with its speech. It has a bite in its entire presence, in its presentation of self. No matter how you try to soften a Mars and Gemini energy, it's going to still bite back in its own way. It has a sense of developing its bite. And that's the thing that people don't quite see, especially in like feminine energies where, you know, the good girl, the nice girl is wanted. Whenever you have a Gemini placement, you know, you're going to have a little bit of a shadowy energy to that. So, in using Mars and dressing like your Mars, right? Getting sexy like your Mars, you want to use the dressing profile. I pulled on people who have Venus in Gemini, right? Which will show to you how Mars expresses itself, how Gemini expresses itself through beauty. Now, these people usually have a bit of an edge to them. I think that the air signs have a very specific edge to them. Of course, Libra having a little bit more of a softer one, but definitely Gemini and Aquarius both share a more shadier energy to its, you know, expression of its sexual energy. Can also express itself through appearing studious, almost as a gimmick, which costumed very well here is very seductive, very interesting. So that's going to be the key with your Mars energy when you think of it in its dressing style. If you have any debilitations or issues here with Mars in Gemini or Mars in the third house, you know, the issue may be wanting to be heard and understood, which can be quite devastating that people do not have the same clarity on you. You may even possess, you know, quite an amazing skill, but it's still not making the effort to, people are not still making the effort to understand you. Gemini is one of those sleeper energies, right? Especially in the field of Mars, of competition. People can, this could be like a dark horse, dark shadow energy, like somebody who's underestimated is what I'm thinking of. Because Gemini, while not a fighter, is a great communicator, and your word creates things. It makes things show up, and communication is what makes everybody know about you. You know, so there's one thing to be great. It's one thing for everybody to know that you are. And this is where we get Gemini. So may not always be the winner in the more physical, active things. And if you try to compete in that arena, you may find that it just still doesn't be enough, because the real arena you're competing in, right, the real sports field that you're competing in, Mars and Gemini, is the one of communication and for people to understand you. And so as you market yourself almost as this emblem or this brand of the world that you live in, the concept that you are, these understandings will free you. At first, Mars and Gemini wants to run away instead of fight, but to stand and fight is to be free for Mars and Gemini. So you're not fighting with your fists, but with your truth, your understanding, your words, your ability to translate and communicate that through packaging, through branding, through short ways of interactions and engagements, is the fight for Mars and Gemini. And as they sharpen this, they become the best at their speaking, the best at skills and being understood, the most marketable, way more marketable than you could have imagined. And that could be one of your winning formulas that you tell yourself, is that you are more marketable than you could have imagined. Mars and Gemini will try to beat other speakers at their intellects, but the key really is to keep working on your own message versus responding to or reacting as much to everyone. Though some responses, if you have a really good comeback, could be also a great Mars formula. So you don't want to like force this. These are just things to enhance and enlighten and tickle your creativity on your Mars in third house, which really is it. It's a delightful way to fight. It's like fighting with a smirk. It's like fighting. I think of the movie of Glinda and the Green Witch. I can't remember her name, Elphaba, and how she has that picture of her smirking. Like that is a Mars and Gemini winner's attitude, I think. Knowing that the message is coming, knowing that they're going to win, even though everyone else doesn't know it. That kind of energy will put you really into it. So if you would like to go further, you can check the worksheets down below. Oh, yes. Also, your fitness routine. Everyone has one. Mars and Gemini or the third house, especially third house. You need to be out and about at different boutiques, checking out different places and meeting different people. To work out with. This would be great for you. But I wrote here cycling because this is not as much walking. Walking is almost too slow, but something that gets you moving. Skateboarding, cycling, things like soccer, team sports, and like fitness boutiques, Pilates group classes, cycling classes. These types of things are perfect for Mars and Gemini in the third house. It's just your energy and really helps you to connect to where you belong, in the community, in the community of things. And that will really also spark your clarity as well in your fitness overall, not just physical. Okay, you guys, so that is Mars in Gemini or in the third house. And then you can check the worksheets down below or book a 30-minute phone session with me through email. And I'll see you in the next one. When you think of winning, you don't think of relaxing and resting, but this is what happens when Mars begins to be in water, elements, signs, and house placements, because resting is the key to regeneration. So when it comes to Mars being in Cancer or in the fourth house, we are seeing Mars at its first primary basis of rest. Naps, anytime you have a chance to relax, lay out in the bed, this becomes one of the necessary things. You may want to even decorate or cultivate it as a space that no one else can be in, a space that has some sort of boundaries or differences. This is like an cliche man cave, right? In the fourth house, it's for anybody who has this placement. So it's your woman cave, or it's your artist cave, or it's your lounge cave, whatever you want to call it. This becomes your warriorship, your space that protects you and gives you that chance for rest. And that's what it's fighting for. Quite often, if you have Mars in these placements, your biggest trigger is that somebody has a better house than you, a better living situation. But another trigger, and your inner competitive nature that you may not even see is there, is that you may be competing with other people's nourishment. And this is such a really good conversation on beauty, because beauty begins here in this energy of Cancer in the fourth house, and how well you're nourished, from taking care of to your nutrition to everything, has a lot to do with the basics of what makes somebody really beautiful, really captivating, really engaging, where you can't take their eyes off of them. This level of nourishment is what you, as Mars in the fourth or Cancer, is looking to compete with. That's right. You need to be the most well taken care of. And the way that Mars interact with water signs is that it cannot be a victim. It cannot always rely on other people to take care of it. So it must go out and do those things. And these can have way more elaborate, milky lives where you're doing the most to take care of yourself. But that is your warriorship. That's how nobody else with you. And that's how you win. So, with Mars in Cancer in the fourth house, you are taking care of yourself in the wholeness of all you are. So, whether it's your mentality, your emotional space, the people that you're around, especially your family members, your connection to family is key for how well you understand to take care of yourself, whether it's that you interact with some family members or you don't. These are huge emblems of how well you're taking care of yourself. And you also are looking at the ingredients of things. So, like the ingredients of your hair products, the ingredients of your food. The more that you know what you're putting into your body, it's not just the things itself, it's the care in doing it. To be the most cared for is how you win here. So if you try to compete with others on physicality and being the fastest, being the most skilled, you even trying to be the most beautiful, which the Venus signs compete with, that's not really your arena. But quite often you'll beat them out because your level of nourishment begins to be so winning that people start to see the truth of what real beauty is, right? And then we don't have to fight over like the preferences and the superficialities, because when somebody's really well cared for, they just they just shine. They're attractive. They're just undeniable, no matter how they look like. And that's a very big thing here because this is moon energy. You can't quite see it, but you can see that this person is well cared for. So creating this level of seeing your own triggers where this may happen for you, where you feel like, somebody or something is getting on your skin or bothering you about somebody else. It might be that underneath it all, there's a level of they have had a level of being cared for that you have not had. So Mars in the fourth or Cancer needs to look at their inner triggers, look at their emotional triggers, because that will be a real tell-all of what's really happening on the inside and not focusing so much on the thing that's triggering you on the outside. Very powerful placement once it understands its winning formula. So it's dress and how to, dress sexy, because that's a big part of the Mars formulas and your fitness formula. They have a lot to do with these milky colors and these more pastel colors that you get. And this is going to kind of tap you into that sensuality, and any sort of like artful things in your private spaces that nourish you, whether it's quotes, it can be quotes, but it could also be images, but in an artful way is really going to amplify how your environment is kind of like there as a safe space, a safe zone for you. Okay. But the way that you want to work with the energy of Mars and dressing like Mars, you may enjoy more satin, silks, pastel, soft, cozy things, big sweaters, cozy sweaters, blankets. These types of things are big for this placement. And as far as the fitness routine goes for this placement, well, all the water signs I think should try to find ways to work out in the dark. There's some studios that have really low dark lighting, but of course, like also swimming is really great here. Dancing is really great in the water signs, especially for Cancer. Belly dancing, things like that. Twerk dancing, things that are just tapping you into your femininity. And also anything that has to do with just really good music, and things that you can receive. So like, yeah, like a really beautiful space. Working out on not like a hard mat, but maybe like on a soft mat. I don't know if that's easy to take care of, but things like that, things that really make you feel like you're in a space where you can touch the walls and it's like soft and fuzzy is a big part of the fitness element. And so those two things don't go together, but they can, if you think about how we don't work out to lose weight or to stay in shape, but certain natural parts of our lives are like a workout. So, for example, you get dressed and you go out and you go to the club. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could get dressed in your house and dance around in your home, and that could be more enjoyable as a fitness routine versus, you know, going to the gym. So it doesn't really matter exactly what it is, but just like the Venus signs, it's about what it's doing for you and how it's kind of coaxing and inviting you into that atmosphere. But also, yes, definitely water aerobics, not water sports for Cancer, but like water aerobics, things like that are really great for this placement.